Hello, and a very happy welcome to you. It is time for us to gather again and talk about some very interesting subjects. It came up in our open house on Saturday when we had the question posed about how to deal with doubt. And I thought it was a fantastic subject. It's a very interesting subject. And I want to give you a very interesting twist on it today in how I'm going to handle it. So I put some thoughts into it. And we're going to go very NLP on that because in NLP we have the presupposition that every resource is useful in some context. So that means there are actually no bad resources, that even something that we might call a negative resource or a negative quality or attribute might actually be useful in some context. And that's exactly what happens with the little word doubt, and how that might actually be just a matter of how that word lives in you and how you're dealing with it that might get you in trouble versus the actual resource itself. So that is my offering to you today, to rethink the idea of doubting and having doubt and how that lives in you and how you're able to interact with it. Okay, so the first question is it even a thought or is it an emotion? And so I thought about that, and what I came up with ultimately, it's both. And it is the combination of both of them that then creates the response that you have within yourself when you are confronted with something that you're doubting. So the thought part of it is ultimately the words that are going through your mind, the pictures that you're making, the sensations that you're feeling in your body that you associate with doubt. So those might be things like you're wondering if you should go a certain way, if you should make a certain decision, if there is something going on that you want to be processing in some way, and you just keep running it in your mind, and it becomes this tailspin, and you're circling it, and you're just agonizing over it, and you keep saying the same things to yourself. I don't know if I should do this. I don't know if I should do that. Oh, gee, I don't know what the right decision is. Oh, gee, I'm doubting myself. And when you have those kind of thoughts, those actual words going through your mind, then you have very specific emotions that are going to be attached to that. And then all of a sudden you do feel an agony, or you're feeling hopeless, or you're feeling depressed. And that is ultimately then the combination of the two, the thoughts as well as the feelings, the emotions that you're having, which then creates your overall state of I'm doubtful, I'm not feeling good about this, I'm not trusting myself, I'm feeling hopeless about this, I'm desperate, whatever words you're using in that moment. The same with the pictures that you're making. You know from NLP that every thought that you're having, the words that you're having going through your mind are accompanied by pictures. You're having internal pictures. Let's say, for example, that you want to go to a certain restaurant. Let's make it very simple. And then you're doubting yourself. Oh, should I really do this? And I have all these other things going on. And I made this commitment, but now I don't want to. Something else came up and I'm doubting myself and I'm running through it in my mind. While you're doing all this agonizing in your head, you're also having pictures that are accompanying all of that. Most people are not aware of their pictures, and still you have them all the time and they're happening. So become aware of the pictures that you're making in your mind while you are saying the words to yourself. And that is the other part of thinking. The same with everything that goes on in your body at that time. What are your breathing patterns? And I can tell you that most people, when they are in a tailspin, when they are spiraling down in their thought process, they are usually not breathing very deeply. That's when we hold our breath, we stop breathing, we breathe very shallow, we get agitated, we get stressed out because it's actually our breathing patterns and not giving enough oxygen to our brain that then causes us to have those negative emotions. So usually what happens in your body, you tense up, you breathe differently, and you're doing things with your body that are not conducive to actually coming up with a good solution here. So it's the pictures that you're making in your mind, it's the words that you're saying to yourself in your mind, and it's also how you're holding your body. It's your overall physiology and especially your breathing patterns that then, taking all of that together, ultimately create an emotion. With that emotion, then it's like, well, I just can't trust myself. I always make bad decisions. I'm a very doubting person. I doubt myself. I can't trust the decisions that I'm making. Those are then the kind of things that come up for you. And then you feel untrusting or untrustworthy, or you're feeling depressed, or you're feeling that you're hopeless in that moment. You feel that you don't understand. You feel misunderstood. So those are then actual the feelings that go with it, and altogether that then creates a state. And that state then is your, I'm not feeling good. I'm doubting. It's a bad feeling. Okay, so this is the ultimately the strategy behind doubting that we're using. So then the question becomes, well, can doubt ever be useful? Like I said in the beginning, every resource is useful in some context. And you know what? There are actual contexts where it might be worthy having some doubt. Big decisions, when you have to make a very, very big decision and you are a little ambivalent about it and you want to run it through all those different pros and cons of your list and really figuring it out, what can I do to make the best decision possible in the situation that I'm in that is going to satisfy me long term, that I'm not going to have buyer's remorse, that I'm not going to have remorse about my decision and then goes 3 weeks from now, man, I wished I would have made a different decision. I wished I would have listened to that little doubting voice that I have in my head. So that's where doubt actually becomes a resource for you, and it becomes a useful strategy for you to then actually go into that feeling of your doubt. Let's do that together right now, because every part in us has a usefulness, has some kind of purpose that it serves us. And I would like for you to right now simply just drop inside and ask yourself, so if my doubter, my internal doubter was a part, an actual part in myself, literally or metaphorically, where would this part live? Where is this part located in myself? So check that out for yourself right now. And I do the same thing. And what I'm getting is behind my brain here, behind my third eye, in the middle of my skull, and I'm feeling some tension there. When I'm thinking about, I'm feeling a little butterflyish there. There is definitely some vibration going on. So that is the first thought that came to my mind. We're like, yeah, that makes sense that my doubting part would be back there in my brain. I'm also feeling a little bit of a butterfly feeling in my stomach at the same time. So I'm just going to honor these two places where I'm feeling that energy as I'm asking myself, hey, where does my doubting part live? Okay. Yeah, it's definitely my brain. I'm getting it in my brain. Okay, good. So you're getting some answers as well. Okay. Where does this part live in me? And then you can communicate with that part. First of all, let's welcome it. Hey, hi, so nice to see you, my friend. Thank you for communicating with me. Thank you for immediately responding when I asked where you live and that you're willing to communicate with me. And I just want to welcome you. Today, I just want to welcome you. I just want to become friends with you. I just want to be in sync with you and learn from you because I know that you hold some very important messages for me. I would like for you to say that to yourself and welcome your doubting part. And then it's all about the relationship you have with that part. Because if you are beating yourself up for having that part and you feel that it's getting you in trouble a lot, then it's time to upgrade that relationship because obviously it's not useful for you what you're doing currently. And therefore, then it would be worthwhile to dive a little deeper into it and then just find out, hey, what's going on and what do you try to do for me in the way that you're interacting with me? You're talking to your own part here. What is your message? Why are you doing it the way you're doing it? Because you know it's just a learned behavior. And of course, if you were exposed to people who expressed a lot of doubt, if you lived with parents, grandparents, or any other people in your social circle who were going back and forth, being ambivalent, and the second they're making a decision, they would then go into a tailspin going, well, I don't know if this is the right decision, and perhaps I should go this way. Gee, I don't know if I like that. Let's do this way. Then you are, of course, being exposed to that, and you will make certain decisions about how to deal with that resource in your own life. And therefore, you might actually then create an identity for yourself that you are a doubter. You've heard the words, the doubting Thomas, right? That's a thing we say in Germany a lot. Oh, he's just a doubting Thomas. And I don't know if that's actually something that you say in English as well. So that is actually becoming an identity, then it becomes part of your character and your personality, that you are a doubter. And that's a very different statement than I doubt a lot, or sometimes I doubt, or I have a great relationship with my internal doubter because they keep me on track. They make sure that I always make the best decision possible that I won't regret in the future. So those are the kind of things that you can start entertaining here a little bit. And that's what I wanted to give you some insights and some enlightenment about, that you have total choice how you want to interact with that part of yourself. So the first thing is to thank it. Thank you, my dear part. I really appreciate that you're willing to communicate with me here right now, and that you hold very important messages for me. I appreciate you. Say that to yourself. Say that to your parts, and really welcome your doubting part, because it is serving you and it's trying to do a really good job for you. And I'm specifically saying trying here because sometimes they don't. They are having the best intentions possible, and yet they're not getting the point across, just like we do in communication a lot of times. We have this good intent of getting the message across in a certain way, and it just didn't work out. And that's all it is. Your part did it the best it could at the moment with the resource it was being given, with the information it had available to it, and then it just didn't work out in the way that you wanted it to. And that's what we're going to upgrade here today together, okay? So the welcoming it, the thankfulness, the appreciation and gratitude is the first thing that you want to do. And then we're simply going to talk to that part. What do you want for me? So if, for example, that you feel that you are a big doubter, and that you doubt all the time, and you're really questioning yourself, oh my goodness, is this the right decision? And it's being detrimental to you, I would like to ask you to talk to your part about that and say, hey, I know you're doing your very, very best, and I know it's just learned behavior, and I would like to upgrade our relationship. Can we please somehow come up with an agreement that I help you to do your job even better, and then you help me, that I don't have to agonize and go on myself into this low vibration, so that I can stay in the high vibration, and we both move forward together. Imagine having that kind of a conversation with your part. So I'm doing that right now myself as well. So one of the ways that I can get in trouble with my doubting part is that sometimes I make a decision, and then immediately the doubting part kicks in and says, yeah, but if I do it this way, then da 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 da. And there's some current things that I'm dealing with right now where I have to make some decisions. And I know that my doubting part is literally going into overdrive, and it's working overtime for me right now in flip flopping me back and forth in my decision. Well, I really want to make this decision. And then the little doubting part comes up and goes, oh, well, we are but, and have you considered X, Y, Z? And then this and that could happen, and da, 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 da. And those are all just a bunch of projections about the future that I don't even know are going to come true. This is just in my head. This is just stuff I'm making up. These are thoughts I'm having, words that are going through my mind, pictures I'm making of how things could go wrong. And then I feel tension in my body, and I feel that little energy behind my ears here. So that's one of the ways that I feel my doubting part could use a little upgrade, a little new job description to make things easier for everybody involved. So that would be one of the things that I can now communicate with my part, and saying, thank you so much for doing that for me, because I know you have a positive intention for me for doing that. I know you want to keep me safe. I know you want me to stay in a good place with those decisions, that I'm not having the remorse later on, that I'm staying safe, that I'm not being wasteful, that I'm not going to be in a position in a couple of months from now going, ah, man, I should have made a different decision. That's all my doubting part wants. It wants to protect me. And that's what your doubting part wants for you as well. It just wants to protect you. It wants to keep you safe. It wants to make sure that you are making the best decision here possible, that you will look back in a few months from now going, well done. And that's ultimately what the job is of your doubting part. So the usefulness is 100% a given. It's just the strategy that we have embraced that gets us into the tailspin, that gets us into the downward spiral. And that's the thing that we can change. And by having that communication, by being open to it, by being understanding and accepting and loving and kind and compassionate towards your part, you're going to create a totally different relationship with that part. And then that part can show up differently for you and become a real resource. It can become a guide. It can be this part that you just check in very quickly and say, hey, I have this thing coming up. I have to make this decision right now. I just want to run it through with you because you're really, really good at it. You are the one who's figuring out all those different ways that I can get in trouble. And you're the what if person, that's what we call it. And you're the one who is the critic, the feedback person, who can give me the information that I need to then have a holistic experience with this whole issue, this project, this outcome, this goal, whatever it is for you, so I can come up with the best decision that we can all move forward together. Doesn't that feel great? When you can imagine that that is your relationship that's possible with your part, instead of, I can't stand it when I start doubting myself. It is a resource. It is useful and it's a strategy that you can build. So let's do that together right now. By communicating with that part, having expressed our gratitude and finding out the positive intent, which is about protection, it is about being helpful, it is about making sure that you can move forward holistically and be happy with what you are deciding. And then, having all that in place, I know that your doubt part already feels much better. I'm being acknowledged. I'm being appreciated. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. Instead of trying to squish me every time I'm going, hey, I have this other idea. Hey, I have these concerns. Hey, I have this feedback, right? So just by being welcoming, just by being kind and understanding to that part, you are already changing the dynamics with that part. And so I would like for you to make a contract with that part right now in some kind of a way that you're saying, from now on, with this new information that we're having right now, I would like for us to come up with some kind of an agreement that me, my person, the holistic me, is going to be much more mindful, welcoming, and kind when you have something to say. And when you are giving me the feedback that I need to consider certain aspects that hadn't thought of before, and that you're raising your voice, that you're knocking on the door, going, hey, have you considered that? Oh, are you sure about that? And I promise that I'm going to listen to you better. That I'm in the process of opening my ears, opening my eyes, opening myself to your feedback. I'm taking your voice very seriously. I welcome it. I thank it. And then I can put that into the bigger pot of what I'm stirring here right now in my decision making and take all aspects into consideration. So just imagine saying that to yourself right now, to your part, that you're really willing to work on it, that you're willing to step into it and create a new relationship, a higher vibrational consciousness with that part. And I know already, I feel it in my own self. It's like, oh, my part goes, oh, that's so kind. I like that. Yeah, I love being appreciated. I love being heard. I love knowing that I bring value because that's all I want. I'm talking as the part right now. That's all I want. And then the part can then express to the person, and I promise that I'm going to be very kind and loving to you in the way that I give feedback. And I do it in a way that you immediately know that I want your best. I have your best interest in mind. I'm looking out for you. I got your back. Give yourself that right now. Imagine your part being able to give that to you right now. Kindness, love, understanding, patience, compassion, empathy, awareness, understanding. Those are all parts of you that you can conjure up, that you can give as a gift to your doubting part so that it can get its message across very clearly. Let's just make sure we are checking all the options. Let's make sure that we really arrive at the best decision possible here. All right? So just feel that from your part right now. Feel the congruence about that. So I'm going to give this to myself, to my part in my brain. I'm going to send some of that energy to my stomach as well. And that feels so good because our parts just want to be heard. Our parts just want us to know that they're really looking out for us. And trust me, I've done so many sessions with people and I've had so many interactions with people in finding out what the positive intent is of their parts. And it always is good at the core. Our parts don't want to mess with us. Our parts don't want to screw us in the deepest sense. No, at the core, they want to help us. They want to protect us. They want us to be happy, healthy, and complete and whole and moving forward, changing with grace, transforming with grace. That's what our part wants for us. It's about being holistic. It's about being acknowledged and accepted. It's about bringing it all in. And doubt is just one part of many, many parts. You can do the exact same process with other parts. The part of you that's critical, the part of you that doesn't understand, the part of you that would like to be more empathic, the part of you that is self-depreciating, the part of you that doesn't feel worthy, the part of you that doesn't feel deserving. The list just goes on and on and on. And people who are considered happy have cultivated strategies that allow them to interact with their parts in useful ways. They see the usefulness of, for example, the part that's impatient. Yeah, what's the positive intent of being impatient when you really ask yourself about that? What does your part want for you that's impatient or that doesn't understand or that judges or criticizes? Those are wonderful questions that you can ask yourself. And then over time, you will start creating different relationships with those parts that are going to help you as a whole to raise your vibration and then move forward with more gratitude, with more grace. Just give yourself that right now. That your part only wants the best for you. You are an organism that is driven by change, by transformation. That's the most normal thing in life, that we're changing and transforming. And the earlier you make peace with it, the better it is and the more happiness you will have. Acceptance and being kind to yourself, being kind to all of your parts, knowing that they have a usefulness for you and that they're here to serve you. They just want the best for you. So really give that to yourself right now, okay? So that's on the level of what you can do for yourself right here, right now. You can build strategies in your thinking, the pictures you're making in your mind, the words that you're saying to yourself, the way you hold your body. The second I can tell that I'm being judgmental or I'm going into a tailspin in my thought processes because my shoulders are tensing up, because I'm breathing badly, and because I'm clenching my jaw. I used to clench my jaw all the time, like, Argh! And then look, I immediately do it with my hands as well. So relax, 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 put my shoulders back, roll them, take a few deep breaths, perhaps even take a physical step back. And just doing that already changes the emotion. And then I don't feel so tense, stressed out. And then I can function better in my thinking, the pictures I'm making. And now I can make some pictures of things working out. I can say things to myself, everything is going to work out, all is well. I'm going to figure this out. I know in the end of it, I am going to make the right decision. Things like that. So now the bigger question is, well, where did we learn it? Especially if it's not useful to you. If it's useful to you, thank your ancestors. Thank you, thank you, thank you for imprinting these wonderful positive patterns in me. Got it. Keep rocking, okay? If it's not useful to you, you can change it. And that's where it becomes really interesting to say, well, where did I actually learn it? I already brought that up in the beginning. I'm a huge fan of Bruce Lipton and epigenetics. And so currently I'm listening to a lot of his podcasts and a lot of his interviews. He is on YouTube, Bruce Lipton, like Lipton tea. And he talks about how ultimately the hardwiring in our brain, our RAS, the way that we filter information from the outside and then code it internally, how we file it, and then how we make it available in those moments when we need that information, is set in place by age 7. So now imagine all the stuff that happened to you in your life, around you, what you observed in the people around you by age 7. Was there a lot of doubt being expressed by your caretakers? Did you observe a lot of conversation between your caretakers where one person was the big believer and the decision maker, and they were really strong in the decision making, and then things would work out. And that means that they had a really good expression with their doubting part. They obviously had things in check. They had a good communication with their internal self on the level of, you know what, I'm going to make this decision, I'm going to stand by it, and things are going to work out great. So you were imprinted with some really positive beliefs about how to deal with your doubting parts, how to make decisions cleverly. And then there might be another family member who was always him-hawing back and forth, him-hawing back and forth. We have some people where we're like, oh, it's always the plan, the plan. So as soon as you are agreeing to plan A, they're immediately going to bring up plan B. And then everything flip-flops again. And that is something that I had dealt with in my past, where I was surrounded by some people that as soon as a plan was put in place, you could guarantee that the plan was not going to be executed. And that plan B, C, D, E, and F would come into play, and then we end up with something completely chaotic and different than what was originally discussed. I have had that too. And I've done it myself, absolutely. There have been things in my life, in my business, in my private life, on vacations, in purchases that I made, where I just agonized myself in those 5 different options that I had. And I was flip-flopping back and forth, driving people around me crazy. Well, you just said that you were gonna do that, and now you're talking the complete opposite. How did that happen? Yeah, I know. I'm just freaking out right now. I don't want to make the wrong decision. And all of that is just learned through your exposure to the environment that you grew up in, especially by the age of 7. So again, I'm going to ask you, who were the influential people in your life that you modeled, that you looked at and going, oh, that's how you do it? And it's not a conscious decision. We're not sitting there consciously as a 3-year-old saying, oh, well, I see my mom always agonizing over every single purchase she's making. And then she goes back and forth and back and forth, and she drives everybody crazy. And by the time she finally does it, she's like, see, I always make the wrong decision. You know people like that, right? I always make the wrong decision. I always end up in a long line. Things never work out. Those kind of beliefs, because those are beliefs. Things never work out for me. I end up always making the wrong decision. I just am a bad chooser. There are people like that. And if you were exposed to that in your youth, then it affected you on some way. You either looked at it and said, well, that ain't working well, so I'm going to do the opposite of that. I'm going to choose my own way of doing it. And you might have actually created some really good patterns coming out of that counter example that you observed, the contrast, as the Hicks would say, going, okay, I see what you're doing, I see what the consequences are, and I don't like it, and therefore I'm going to create some other patterns. We all do that. We all have people in our lives who are showing us certain ways of being that we look at and say, oh, I see the consequences and I see the results that you're getting because of what you're doing, and so I'm going to do something different. I do anything but that. And then we all have people where we look at it, and even so, they are not getting the results, and they are agonizing, and they are making mistakes, and we're going, well, you know what? I'm going to do the same thing. And it doesn't make any sense to me why I would tap into the same pattern, even so it's unresourceful. And the best explanation I have for you right now, why we do that, it's out of love and loyalty, especially when it's a parent or a very close relative, a very close caregiver, and we see them hurting. That's why we adopt negative belief systems. Because in our childish mind, and this is all based on the work of Bert Hellinger and family constellations, in our beautiful, innocent child mind, we have the belief that when we take over the burden, that the other person is going to hurt less. And I would like for you to give that to yourself right now. That every negative belief you've ever adopted from those people around you who were the adults, who were the grown-ups, or even other children around you, was only because of a desire to help, to be kind. It was your compassion and your loyalty that caused you to take on those beliefs and then propel them forward and perhaps even give them to your own kids. Give yourself that right now, because that is so powerful and important for you to understand that that is your positive intent for having adopted certain patterns and beliefs from your environment. You just tried to help. And that brings us back to usefulness. Is it then still useful for you to still keep doing it now? At your current age, with your current education, your current level of information that you have, that you still want to run those patterns? That's what you need to ask yourself. So let's do a little process with that. I would like for you to go and make a movie right now of your childhood, especially those first 7 years. And look at some of those patterns that were being played out in front of you and with you. Patterns about health and well being. How does your family feel about health and well being? And how much was there talk about that certain diseases just go from generation to generation and we're just programmed that way and that's the way it is? And all those things that people believe about health and well being, mental health, physical health, spiritual health, emotional health. Just look at what you were exposed to and how people dealt with their own health. And then what are some of those beliefs that you perhaps picked up because of that you took over from your ancestors? Look at financial issues. What is your relationship with finances right now? It's a direct result of those first 7 years of your upbringing and the beliefs that you chose to form. And you might have been in a very abundant household, but there was a lack of love. And so you might have made a decision, you know what, I'm going to choose love over money. And those are those crazy beliefs that we get. In Germany, we say, Glück im Spiel, Pech in der Liebe. Luck in games, unluck in love. What a sad belief to have. So it wasn't either or. You were either lucky with money, but then love sucked, or you had a good love life and your money situation sucked. And those are things that all of a sudden you're 40 years old and you're like, oh yeah, Pech im Spiel, Glück in der Liebe, blah. You're like, ew, where does that come from? And those are those kind of beliefs that you don't think about consciously. They just come up in your behavior all of a sudden. So look at the results that you have in your life right now, and they're a direct reflection of the beliefs that you have adopted when you were a child. You might have had a very stern parent. So you made the decision that you're going to marry someone who's extremely free and light and very easygoing. You might have had a very, very easygoing parent, and therefore you're deciding to now go with someone who's more stern and thinking in the box. You might have had one parent who was super stern, the other one was the freedom fighter, and then you saw that conflict being played out, and one child will go this way, the other child will go that way. I can guarantee you that. It's so interesting, isn't it? So look at your life right here, right now. I went through health, I went through finances, so let's talk about career. Very, very interesting subject. And I know a lot of people who are doubting their career path, who are unhappy with their choice and they feel stuck. And they're wondering, oh my goodness, how am I supposed to do this for another 20 years? What you were modeled in your household, in your parents' behavior, in your caregiver's behavior, directly programmed your belief about work, the value you're bringing, the value you're getting, what's possible, what's not possible, what you deserve. Yeah, so that's a very powerful one to ask yourself. And then the same with relationships. I kept the best one for last. Everybody that you're interacting with is a direct reflection of your belief system. So if you have doubts about certain relationships in your life right now and what the value is and why you're doing it, again, this is something that you learned. So I would like for us to just do a generalized forgiveness exercise together and letting go exercise. I would like for you to simply right now state to yourself that you understand now better what's going on. Of course, you're going to learn more about it in a year. When you look at it, you're going to have even more information and you can do it again. And for where you're at right here, right now, I would like for you to simply say, I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to let it go in the way that it has lived in me. I'm very grateful for it, how it has lived in me up till now. And for right now, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to release it. I give it to the universe. I give it to God. I give it to Mother Earth, whatever you want to do. And I just let it go with gratitude because it has served me up until now. And with that, you're actually creating a vacuum. And now I would like to ask you to fill that vacuum with a new way of interacting with yourself and your doubts and other parts. You know what your patterns are that you don't like about yourself, that you would like to change. And you can take this exact same exercise and go into the judgment, the criticism, the not worthy, the not deserving, and everything else, being impatient. And then just give that to yourself. From this moment on, I'm going to practice a new way of being with myself, with my parts, more understanding, more open, more compassionate. I'm going to listen. I'm going to be more open with my ears, with my eyes, with my body, and just being open to the information as it comes. Do you know that we have up to 15,000 thoughts a day? 15,000 is the current number. So there's constantly stuff going through your mind. Constantly, constantly, constantly. Just imagine that. It's insane. No, it's not insane. It's just, it is what it is. And you have the power to direct those thoughts. I'm doing a lot of study on the power of positive affirmations, which is another thing that Bruce Lipton highly, highly promotes. The things that you constantly feed yourself are going to affect you. So, for example, my little sweet granddaughter Clover was watching some Teletubbies earlier. Then I had a meeting that I went to afterwards, and I'm literally catching myself while I'm sitting in the meeting, and all of a sudden I'm singing the Teletubby song to myself in my brain, in my head. While I'm outwardly listening to the other people speaking, I'm having da 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 da, and I caught myself like, seriously, from just a couple of shows that I overheard her watching. That is hilarious. That's how powerful the environmental impact is on our mind. So when you are constantly listening to very negative information that creates fear and negative vibrations, then it will affect you. And of course, the opposite as well, as you're listening to positive affirmations. And that's why I love the people like Esther Hicks, Louise L. Hay, Florence Scovel Shinn, Napoleon Hill. Someone brought up Ogmandino today. I'm like, oh, that's a good one. I made myself a note. Time to read that again. The kind of books you're reading, the kinds of movies you're watching. I just don't want any horror movies. I was never a horror movie person. It scares me. I don't like it. I don't like the feelings I'm getting from it. It's no fun. The most crazy Halloween movie I'm going to go for is going to be The Nightmare Before Christmas. That to me is fun and cute and light. And then I'm feeding myself lots of fun sitcoms, light-hearted, kind, sweet, the things that make me laugh, things that are witty, funny banter, funny humor, because that works for me. The same with the kind of books that I'm reading. I don't want any pictures coming into my mind that all of a sudden I'm like, oh no, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to see that. Can't stand that when I read a book and all of a sudden it gets me into this terrible visual of something that's happening there. I'm like, oh man, I didn't want to see that. In a movie, at least I can go like this, okay? Like, oh, okay, I don't want to see this, I don't want to see this. But with a book, man, it's right there. You're reading it and it's in my mind. I have a very visual mind. So I'm staying away from those kind of stories. I just don't want it because I know how deeply effective it is on my mind and how it's going to steer me in a certain way. And then I have to undo it. Okay, don't want to think that. I remember watching the movie Sin City many, many years ago. That affected me for weeks. I'm like, why did I do this to myself? And now I have it in my brain. And even just talking about it, I'm like, ah, there it is again. Yeah, I know, bad example. So you are in charge of all of that. And it is what you're conditioning yourself to. You are being conditioned. You are conditioning yourself. And if you feel that you are a very depressed person and that life sucks and that you're always ending up with the short stick and that you're always making the wrong choice and stuff, It's because you've conditioned yourself, and that's all it is. And then it just takes awareness, making a decision to change it, and then practice. You need to look at the strategies that you're using currently and then transferring it into useful strategies, just like we did with our doubting part. You welcome it, you thank it, you ask it for its positive intent. What is your message for me? What do you really want from me? I know you want to help me somehow. So now, how can we change that? How can we turn this into something more useful than what we've been doing up till now? And that's all it is. And then with practicing it and with exposing yourself, with marinating in it, with making it impactful, you will change. That's why I'm surrounding myself with things everywhere in this room I'm looking at right now is some kind of a positive imprint and impact on my subconscious mind. Even that thing that you're seeing behind me, that's the vortex. That's my version of what I consider the vortex. And I look at it and it makes me happy. And I immediately go to vortex, non-physical. This is where it happens. And then I can manifest it. I'm the channel that manifests it into a physical reality. And it informs me, it informs my brain every day. And even when I'm not here, I still have that visual in my head. Right now, behind my computer screen, I'm looking at this little altar that I have set up because today is day 10 of my anniversary with the El Camino, which was 6 years ago. And I'm redoing the whole trip. So, for example, I have some really cute little pictures here. I'll show you one piece that just sums up the whole thing. And those of you who have been there know it. Buen Camino, friends. This is so dear to my heart. The shell, the sign of the Knight Templars. This informs my brain. This immediately gets me into my, spiritual, high vibrational space of immediately remembering where I got this, how the backpack felt on my back, the incredible conversations I had with the people, the beautiful nature I got to walk through, the little chapels we visited, the prayer, the meditation, the journaling, everything that went on during that time is just coming right back. And that's what I'm informing myself. So I'm rehashing this whole trip, looking at pictures again, reading my journal from then, looking at the stamps that I got in my book from the different hotels and pensions that we stayed at. It's phenomenal. And I specifically created that little altar to remind myself of that. A couple of days ago was the Remembrance Day of my husband's father's passing. And we actually lit a church candle for him, prayed with him, talked with him. So those are all the things that you can do to inform yourself, taking actions that are conducive, creating environments that are conducive, practicing beliefs that you want to imprint into your brain. What do I want to think 10 years from now? What do I want for me to be normal? I don't have to think about it. I'm just saying it. When someone says, hey, how do you think about this and that subject? You're like, oh, well, that's how I feel. And this is my frame of mind, how it is. And you're like, yeah, that's right. I cultivated that. I didn't think like that. I have so many things in my life where I'm like, wow, I used to think very differently. And now I'm thinking like that. It's because I became aware. I made a decision that I want to change it. And then I developed new strategies and practiced them. And that's what we've all done many, many times already. You've done it many times with certain subjects. Subjects that were important enough to you that you said, you know what, I really want to change this. The way this is living in me does not work. I want something different. That's usually what starts the journey. I just want something different. This needs to stop. I can't take it anymore. Those kind of rock bottom, perhaps, experiences. We're like, okay, this is it. I'm done with this. And I've had that. And that might be for you today with doubt. Where you're like, you know what, I've had it. I don't want to think about doubt that way anymore that I used to. And so we honor our ancestors. We thank our ancestors. We understand that we were being loyal, that we just took it on to help them to be kind and compassionate and empathic. And now we can let it go because it does not serve us and it does not serve them. Give yourself that too. It doesn't serve them. You did the best you could. And now, with the new information that you have, you can do something better. All right? So that is a lot of information, my dears, that I just gave you. And this might be worthwhile looking at again and checking it out. I do want to invite those of you who are very interested, and we do have a very sweet circle here, that I can send you the recording from last week's open house, which was a 3 hour session. And we went very deeply into our RAS, into our belief system, especially transgenerational. Okay, so those of you who are interested, send me a message, make a comment. I'd love to send you the recording. And the other thing is that my practitioner training is starting on the 28th, and this is the very first time that I'm going to do it online on Zoom. So if you have any questions about that, please send me a PM. I'd love to chat with you. Call me, have me call you, and we can talk about how you can participate in that. You do not have to take the whole training. You can also pick and choose which segments you would like to have so that you can learn more about quantum NLP and the law of attraction. All right? I wish you a most wonderful journey in your own personal exploration with your doubting part. Thank you, doubting part. And thank you for being so willing to communicate and having that experience right now. And I would really like to invite you to do some journaling over this, to do some more personal explorations, perhaps do some research. Definitely check out Bruce Lipton, has fantastic information. And then I'm just going to wish you a most wonderful evening and a most wonderful continuation of your personal journey of growth and transformation. And with that, have a wonderful rest of the day, and I want to say goodbye. Ciao.